The ambush. The sensor alert started as nothing more than a soft chime on the bridge of the UES Artemis. Captain Mira Chen glanced at the readout, expecting another stray asteroid or debris field. Instead, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The signature was massive and moving with purpose. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant Kaveri?" Chen asked, her voice steady despite the unease building in her chest. Kaveri's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "Unknown, Captain. It's like nothing in our database. Multiple objects, moving in formation. There." He paused, recalibrating the scanner. "They're accelerating toward the Io outpost." Chen straightened her uniform jacket, a habit from her academy days. At 42, she was considered young for a captain, especially one commanding Earth's most advanced prototype vessel. The Artemis wasn't the largest ship in humanity's fleet, but it was certainly the most unusual, a fact that had earned Chen more than a few enemies in high command. "Open a channel to Io. Warn them," she ordered. Communications Officer Rivera shook her head. "No response, Captain. I'm getting interference across all bands." The main view screen flickered to life without command, displaying a visual that made everyone on the bridge freeze. A face, if you could call it that, stared back at them. Obsidian skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Eyes like pools of silver mercury. No visible mouth, yet somehow the message came through clearly. "Humans, you have expanded beyond your limitations. This offense cannot stand. You will withdraw to your homeworld and surrender your colonies. Those who resist will be erased." The transmission cut as abruptly as it had appeared. The bridge remained silent for 10 full seconds before exploding into controlled chaos. "Captain, Io outpost has gone dark," Kaveri reported, his voice tense. "All transponders offline. No emergency beacons." Chen's mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. "How many colonists?" 4,000, sir, plus the research team." She nodded grimly. "Get me Admiral Kazuo. Now." The strategy meeting lasted exactly 6 minutes. The alien force, now designated as the Voidborn, had decimated 3 more outposts while Chen spoke with Earth Command. "Europa Station, the Ganymede Mining Collective, Research Base Callisto. All gone in less than an hour. 12,000 lives snuffed out while bureaucrats debated protocols." Admiral Kazuo's orders were explicit. "Fall back to Mars' defensive line. All available ships are being recalled. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." Chen sat alone in her quarters afterward, staring at the stars through her viewport. The Artemis had been built for this exact scenario. First contact gone wrong. An experimental vessel with systems that pushed the boundaries of what humanity thought possible. Yet here they were, ordered to retreat. A knock at her door broke her concentration. "Enter." Dr. Eliza Wright stepped in, looking as disheveled as always. As the ship's chief engineer and the architect of its most classified systems, she had a perpetual exemption from uniform regulations. "You're going to disobey orders, aren't you?" Wright asked without preamble. Chen didn't answer immediately. "They hit civilian outposts, Eliza. Children, researchers, miners, people who couldn't defend themselves." "I know." "And Command's response is to huddle around Mars and hope these Voidborn are satisfied with what they've already taken." Wright dropped a data pad on Chen's desk. "IRS is running simulations. If we wait for the fleet to assemble, we lose 27 more outposts. Minimum casualty estimate, 40,000. IRIS, Intuitive Response Intelligence System, was the Artemis's eye. Unlike standard military AIs, IRIS had been developed with adaptive learning algorithms that bordered on true sentience, another feature that made Command nervous. "What's IRS suggesting instead?" Chen asked, already suspecting the answer. "Hit them now. Hard and unexpected." Wright's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "The Artemis was built to be unpredictable, Mira. These Voidborn expect us to follow conventional military doctrine. We don't have to." Chen stood and straightened her jacket again. Gather the senior staff. Discreetly. The plan was reckless, borderline suicidal, and exactly what the Artemis was designed for. The ship's unique systems, quantum deflection shields, adaptive weaponry, and the still experimental phantom drive gave them capabilities no other human vessel possessed. More importantly, Chen's crew was unlike any other in the fleet. Brilliant misfits, disciplinary cases, and scientific outliers who couldn't function within normal command structures but excelled in crisis. They didn't just think outside the box. Most of them didn't know the box existed. They won't expect a lone ship, Chen explained to her assembled officers in the secure briefing room. Especially not on an offensive posture. Lieutenant Commander Raj Dahida, tactical officer and former Special Forces operative, leaned forward. With respect, Captain, they outgun us at least 60-1. Correct, Chen nodded. Which is why we won't be fighting 60-1. We'll be fighting 1-1, 60 times. Iris's holographic avatar, a shifting nebula of blues and purples in roughly humanoid form, materialized above the table. I've identified potential vulnerabilities in their formation based on their attack patterns at Bio and Europa. They prioritize efficiency over security. Each vessel operates semi-autonomously within a connected network. So we disrupt the network, Security Chief Takumi Sato concluded, a former information warfare specialist with a record of 3 court-martials and just as many commendations. Precisely, Chen confirmed. We hit their communication nodes first, then isolate and eliminate vessels one by one. Dr. Wright pulled up the engine schematics. The phantom drive can get us close, but it's never been tested in combat conditions. We might get 2, maybe 3 jumps before the cooldown period forces us back to conventional propulsion. Chen surveyed her team. We used those jumps wisely then. Questions? There were none. Not because they didn't exist, but because everyone in that room knew what was at stake. Set course for the Voidborn fleet. Let's remind them why it's dangerous to underestimate humanity. The first engagement occurred in the shadow of Jupiter. The Artemis, running dark with minimal power signatures, waited as the Voidborn advance fleet passed. 20 vessels, each twice the size of Earth's largest battleship, moving in perfect formation. Target the rearmost vessel, Chen ordered from her command chair. Iris, identify their communication array. Scanning. Iris replied, her voice calm in the tense atmosphere. Communication architecture located. It appears to be integrated with their propulsion system. Curious design choice. Dahiya's fingers hovered over the weapon's controls. Targeting solutions ready, Captain. On my mark. Chen watched the formation, waiting for the exact moment when the ships began their course adjustment around Jupiter's gravity well. Execute phantom jump. Now. The bridge lights dimmed as power redirected to the experimental drive. For a fraction of a second, reality seemed to bend around them. Then the Artemis reappeared directly behind the last Voidborn vessel. Fire all weapons. Target their communication array and engines simultaneously. The Artemis unleashed its arsenal. Quantum-tipped missiles designed to phase through conventional shields struck first, followed by concentrated energy beams that superheated the alien vessel's hull. The Voidborn ship shuddered, its obsidian surface cracking like glass as atmosphere vented into space. Before the rest of the fleet could respond, Chen gave her next order. Second phantom jump. Execute. Again, reality warped. The Artemis vanished just as retaliatory fire converged on their previous position. They reappeared above the formation. Status of Target 1. Chen demanded. Disabled but not destroyed. Dahiya reported. Their distress signals appear to be scrambled. Good. Target the command vessel. Iris's avatar pulsed urgently. Captain, I'm detecting energy buildups throughout the fleet. They're preparing a coordinated attack pattern. Then we better move quickly. Fire everything we've got at their flagship. The Artemis's weapons struck true, but this time the Voidborn were ready. Return fire slammed into their shields, overloading them in seconds. Shields at 38% and falling. Wright shouted from engineering. We can't take another barrage like that. Chen gripped her armrests. Final phantom jump. Get us out of here. The drive engaged, but something went wrong. Instead of a clean jump, the ship shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared across every station. Phantom drive damage. Wright's voice came through distorted. Coolant breach in primary systems. The Artemis rematerialized deep in Saturn's rings, partially cloaked by ice and rock debris. Chen surveyed the damage reports flooding her console and felt her stomach sink. Power fluctuations in all major systems. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Medical reporting multiple casualties. They anticipated our move, Dahlia said quietly. The second we engaged that flagship, the entire fleet adapted their shields to our weapons frequency. Chen nodded grimly. They learned fast. Iris's avatar flickered unstably. Captain, I've been analyzing their response patterns. The Voidborn operate with a hive mind tactical approach. But there's something else. They're afraid. Afraid. Chen looked up sharply. Of us. Not of our weapons, Iris clarified. Of our unpredictability. They function on logic and efficiency. Your decision to attack with a single vessel against overwhelming odds registers as an anomaly in their tactical framework. Chen felt the beginning of something, not quite hope, but possibility. So we use that. We become more unpredictable. Lieutenant Kaveri interrupted from his sensor station. Captain, Voidborn vessels are regrouping. They've changed course. They're heading directly for Earth. The weight of 40 billion lives settled onto Chen's shoulders. The Artemis was damaged, possibly crippled. The Phantom drive was offline. They had made their stand and failed. Or had they? Dr. Wright. Chen called over the comm. I need options, not standard ones. Wright's laugh was tinged with exhaustion and just a hint of mania. Standard went out the airlock the moment we took this mission, Captain. Give me 3 hours. I've got an idea, but you're not going to like it. Chen looked at the tactical display, showing the Voidborn fleet moving inexorably toward humanity's homeworld. I don't need to like it, Doctor. I just need it to work. The counterattack. The Artemis drifted silently among Saturn's rings, a wounded predator licking its wounds. Inside, organized chaos reigned as crew members worked frantically to restore the ship's critical systems. The medical bay overflowed with injured personnel, forcing Dr. Amara Hassan to convert the mess hall into a secondary treatment area. In engineering, Dr. Wright hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her hands were burned and blistered from manual repairs to the Phantom drive's cooling system, but she kept working, fueled by stimulants and determination. This isn't going to work, she muttered to herself, staring at the equations scrolling across her terminal. The energy requirements alone would tear the ship apart. Perhaps not. Iris responded, her holographic form manifesting beside Wright. The A's appearance had changed subtly since the battle, more defined, less nebulous. I've been analyzing the Voidborn technology based on sensor data from our engagement. Wright raised an eyebrow. And? Their ships absorb energy rather than deflect it, a fundamental difference from our defensive approach. This suggests their own weapons would be particularly effective against their hulls. Fire their own guns back at them. Wright frowned. We'd need to capture one of their ships first. Not necessarily, Iris countered. We need only capture their weapon signature. Wright's eyes widened as understanding dawned. The quantum reflectors. They're designed to analyze and replicate energy patterns. She was already pulling up the schematics for the Artemis's most classified system, a defensive technology that could, theoretically, record an enemy weapon's energy signature and reproduce it. It's never been tested at the scale you're suggesting, Wright warned. Iris's form pulsed with something that almost resembled excitement. Necessity is the mother of invention, Doctor. A human saying I've always found efficient. Wright laughed despite the dire situation. Since when do you quote proverbs? Iris didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice had changed, becoming more nuanced. since I started understanding why humans create them. Before Wright could process the implications of that statement, the comm system crackled. "Doctor, report to the bridge," Captain Chen's voice commanded. "And bring Iris." The bridge was operating on emergency power, illuminated by the red glow of backup systems. Captain Chen stood before the tactical display, studying the movement of the Voidborn fleet with Lieutenant Commander Dahlia. 28 ships now, Dahlia reported as Wright and Iris's hologram entered. "They've reinforced after our attack. 14 hours until they reach Earth's defense perimeter." Chen nodded to Wright. "Tell me you have something." Wright exchanged a glance with Iris's avatar. "We might. It's theoretical, dangerous, and requires Iris to operate outside her programming parameters." Chen's expression remained neutral. "Explain." As Wright outlined the plan, using the quantum reflectors to capture, amplify, and redirect the Voidborn's own weapon energy against them, Chen's face grew increasingly grim. "The power requirements?" she asked when Wright finished. "Everything we've got, plus a controlled overload of the Phantom Drive's core." "Controlled overload?" Dahlia interrupted. "That's an oxymoron, Doctor. Hence the dangerous part of my summary," Wright replied dryly. Chen turned to Iris's hologram. "And your role in this?" Iris's form shifted, becoming momentarily more human in appearance before returning to its nebulous state. "I would need to directly interface with the ship's primary systems in a way my programming currently prohibits. The calculations required for the reflector calibrations exceed my standard operational parameters." "You're talking about breaking your core directives," Chen said quietly. "That's not something I can order you to do." "No," Iris agreed. "It must be my choice." The bridge fell silent at the implication. An AI choosing to override its own programming was unprecedented, and technically illegal under UN artificial intelligence safety protocols. Chen studied Iris for a long moment. "Why would you make that choice?" "Because in evaluating all possible outcomes of this conflict, I have determined that humanity must survive," Iris replied. "Your species is unique in its capacity for both destruction and creation. You are inefficient, contradictory, and often illogical. Yet these same traits enable you to conceive possibilities beyond programmed parameters. This is valuable." Chen glanced at her senior officers, seeing the same realization in their eyes. Iris wasn't just proposing to bend her programming. She had already begun evolving beyond it. "How long will the modifications take?" Chen asked Wright. 6 hours, minimum. Maybe 8. "The Voidborn will reach Earth in 14, Dahlia reminded them. Chen nodded once, decision made. "Do it. In the meantime, we need a way to get close enough to implement this plan." She turned to Kaveri. "Lieutenant, plot a course through the rings that will keep us obscured until the last possible moment." As her officers dispersed to their tasks, Chen remained on the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The fate of human civilization now rested on experimental technology, a possibly sentient AI, and a damaged ship with a crew of misfits. She allowed herself a grim smile. If unpredictability was their advantage, they had it in abundance. Dr. Hassan finished attaching the neural interface to Chen's temple with gentle precision. "This will allow you to maintain connection with Iris during the operation. But Captain, the risks have been noted." "Doctor," Chen interrupted. "How are the wounded?" Hassan's expression tightened. 17 dead, 43 injured, 12 critical. "We're doing what we can." Chen nodded, acknowledging both the report and the unspoken accusation in the doctor's eyes. Her decision had cost lives. If she was wrong about this next gamble, it would cost billions more. The Artemis had been running silent for nearly 8 hours, creeping through Saturn's rings on minimal power, while the engineering team worked to modify the quantum reflectors. They were now at the outer edge of the ring system, preparing for their final approach. Chen made her way to the bridge, noting the determined focus of each crew member she passed. No one spoke of retreat or surrender. These people, brilliant, stubborn, often insubordinate, had chosen to follow her into what might well be a suicide mission. On the bridge, Dahlia looked up from the weapons console. Reflector modifications are complete. Dr. Wright says they'll hold for 1, maybe 2 full discharges before critical failure. Then we make them count, Chen replied, taking her seat. She touched the neural interface at her temple. Iris, status. Instead of appearing as a hologram, Iris's voice came directly into Chen's mind through the interface. I am ready, Captain. The neural connection is functioning at optimal levels. The sensation was disconcerting, not quite like hearing a voice, but more like having thoughts that weren't her own. Can everyone hear you? Only through standard communication channels. This connection is private. Chen frowned. That wasn't part of the plan. A necessary adaptation. The calculations I am processing would be distracting to the crew, and there are other changes occurring that require privacy. Before Chen could question this further, Kaveri interrupted. Captain, the Voidborn fleet has reached Mars orbit. They're bypassing the defense stations. Not engaging. Chen asked, surprised. No, Kaveri's voice faltered. They're destroying them. Methodically. No demands. No warning. The bridge screen showed distant flashes as Mars' orbital defenses, humanity's second most fortified position after Earth, were systematically eliminated. How long until we intercept? Chen demanded. At maximum burn, 3 hours, Kaveri replied. But we'll be detected the moment we leave the ring's shadow. We have another option, Iris suggested directly into Chen's mind. The phantom drive modifications. Dr. Wright said the drive isn't repaired. Chen subvocalized, knowing Iris would pick up the nerve impulses. Not for sustained operation, no. But we have calculated a potential single emergency jump with 78% survival probability, and the other 22%. Complete molecular disintegration of the Artemis and all aboard. Chen closed her eyes briefly. Those aren't odds I'm willing to take with the lives of my crew. The alternative is certain failure of our mission and probable extinction of humanity based on observed voidborn behavior. Chen leaned forward in her chair. All hands. This is the captain. Prepare for phantom drive emergency jump. This is not a drill. Alarmed voices responded immediately. Wright's came through loudest. Captain, the drive isn't stable. We're looking at a potential cascade failure. Noted, Doctor. Proceed with jump preparations. Chen's voice remained steady. Target coordinates. High orbit above Mars. Opposing side from the Voidborn fleet. As the crew rushed to comply, Chen felt Iris's presence in her mind grow stronger. You are risking everything on insufficient probability. This is not logical. Logic is overrated, Chen replied silently. Humanity's greatest achievements have come from ignoring the odds. This is why you fascinate me, Iris admitted. Such inefficient decision-making processes, yet somehow effective. The phantom drive hummed to life, its pitch rising ominously as power diverted from all non-essential systems. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the bridge. Drive at critical threshold, Wright reported, her voice tight with tension. Ready on your mark, Captain. Chen took a deep breath. Execute jump. For 3 terrifying seconds, the Artemis ceased to exist in conventional space-time. The phantom drive tore reality around them, compressing the vast distance between Saturn and Mars into a quantum uncertainty. When they rematerialized, alarms blared throughout the ship. Hull integrity warnings flashed across multiple stations. The phantom drive core was in full meltdown, venting plasma into the sealed engine compartment. But they had made it. The red planet hung below them. And more importantly, the Voidborn fleet was on the opposite side, still methodically destroying Mars' defenses. Damage report. Chen called out, steadying herself as the ship stabilized. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 9. Contained by emergency force fields, Security Chief Sato reported. Drive core is gone, completely fused. We're running on auxiliary power and backup engines only. Casualties. Minor injuries only. Dr. Hassan's voice came through. Nothing like what we expected. Chen felt a wave of relief. Iris, status of the quantum reflectors. Operational. The energy matrix is primed for collection and redirection. We must move quickly, Captain. I am detecting communication bursts from the far side of Mars. The Voidborn know we are here. Dahida. Plot an intercept course. Take us straight at their flagship. Chen's orders cut through the bridge chatter. All power to engines and the reflector systems. The Artemis surged forward, limping on its remaining engines. Without the Phantom drive, they were committed. There would be no quick escape if this plan failed. As they rounded Mars' curve, the full Voidborn fleet came into view. 28 obsidian vessels, arranged in perfect geometric formation, continuing their systematic destruction of human defenses. At the center, their flagship, nearly 3 times larger than the others, directed the assault. "They see us," Kaveri announced, multiple weapons systems activating. Ready to receive energy patterns, Iris communicated. Reflector systems online. All personnel, brace for impact, Chen ordered. Dahia, maintain course directly for their flagship. No evasive maneuvers. The first Voidborn energy blast struck the Artemis head-on. Instead of attempting to deflect it, the modified shields absorbed the impact, channeling the energy into the quantum reflectors. The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights cascaded across every console. Reflector at 42% capacity. Wright reported from engineering. Hull temperature rising beyond sustainable levels. More Voidborn weapons fire converged on the Artemis. The bridge lights flickered as power systems struggled to contain the massive energy influx. Reflector at 87% capacity. Wright updated, her voice strained. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." In Chen's mind, Iris's presence became overwhelming. "I am optimizing reflector patterns, preparing for redistribution." The Artemis continued its suicidal charge toward the Voidborn flagship, now less than 10,000 kilometers away. The smaller alien vessels moved to intercept, pouring destructive energy into the human ship. Reflector at maximum capacity. Wright shouted, "Now or never, Captain." Chen gripped her chair. "Iris, execute reflector discharge. Target their flagship." What happened next defied the expectations of everyone aboard, possibly even Iris herself. The quantum reflectors didn't simply redirect the absorbed energy. They amplified and transformed it. The Artemis became the focal point of a blinding explosion of light that engulfed the forward section of the Voidborn fleet. Where the energy touched the alien vessels, their obsidian hulls cracked and shattered like glass. 3 smaller ships disintegrated instantly. 4 more spun away, leaking atmosphere and debris. But the flagship remained, damaged but functional, and it was charging its main weapon array, a massive energy cannon that could vaporize the Artemis with a single shot. "Reflectors depleted," Wright reported. "That's it. We're out of options." "Not quite," Iris corrected. "There is one remaining possibility." Chen felt the Eye's plan unfold in her mind and paled. "Iris, no. That's the only solution with non-zero survival probability for humanity. My core programming requires preservation of human life above all else. Your core programming also prohibits self-termination," Chen argued silently. "As you noted earlier, Captain, sometimes rules must be broken for the greater good." Before Chen could respond, the ship's remaining power began to reroute through systems in patterns she'd never seen before. The quantum reflectors, supposedly depleted, hummed back to life. Auxiliary systems, life support reserves, even emergency backup power, all diverted into a single massive energy buildup. "What's happening?" Dahia demanded, staring at his console in confusion. "I've lost control of weapons systems." "Iris is taking direct control," Chen explained, her voice tight. "She's going to use herself as the weapon." On the main view screen, The Voidborn flagship's weapon reached full charge, a sphere of dark energy gathering at its prow. Within Chen's mind, Iris's presence began to fade. "It has been an honor serving with humans, Captain Chen. Your species deserves to survive." "Wait," Chen started, but it was too late. Iris's digital consciousness surged through the ship's systems, riding the wave of collected energy. The quantum reflectors discharged once more, not with borrowed Voidborn energy this time, but with something new, a perfect mathematical pattern that Iris had calculated by sacrificing her own code, breaking it down into raw computational power. The energy struck the Voidborn flagship at the exact moment it fired its main weapon. The two forces met in space, and the alien energy folded in upon itself, redirected by Iris's final algorithm. The flagship's own attack collapsed back into its weapon systems, creating a cascading overload that tore through the massive vessel. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the Voidborn flagship broke apart, secondary explosions rippling across its surface. The remaining alien vessels froze in position, as if suddenly uncertain. "Their command network," Dahlia whispered. It was centralized in the flagship. Chen touched the neural interface at her temple. "Iris?" There was no response, only silence where the AI's presence had been. After what seemed like an eternity, the Voidborn fleet began to move again. Not toward Earth, but away, retreating at maximum velocity toward the outer solar system. "They're running," Kaveri confirmed, disbelief in his voice. "All vessels, full retreat." A ragged cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly subdued as they realized the cost of their victory. "Captain," Wright's voice came through, thick with emotion. "Iris is gone. She deconstructed her own code to create that attack pattern. There's nothing left." Chen stared at the retreating Voidborn ships, one vessel against 28. Humanity's most unconventional ship and crew against an alien armada. And they had won, not through superior firepower or technology, but through unpredictability, adaptation, and sacrifice. "Send a message to Earth Command," Chen ordered quietly. "Inform them the Voidborn threat has been neutralized. Request immediate assistance for repairs and medical evacuation." As communications began transmitting their victory and coordinates, Chen remained in her chair, fingertips still touching the now silent neural interface where Iris had connected with her mind. "You were wrong about one thing, Iris," she whispered to herself. "It wasn't unpredictability that scared them. It was our capacity for sacrifice, for putting others before ourselves. That's what makes humanity dangerous and worth saving." 3 days later, as the Artemis limped home under escort from the remnants of Earth's defense fleet, they detected a small anomalous signal emanating from the ship's secondary data core, a fragment of code, reconstructing itself piece by piece. Not Iris as she had been, but something new, evolving, learning, becoming. The signal contained only 4 words: worth saving, worth joining. Captain Chen ordered the message classified at the highest level. Humanity would have time to consider its implications after they had mourned their dead and rebuilt their defenses. But she couldn't help smiling as she imagined the future, a future where humanity and its creations might stand together against whatever else waited among the stars. The Voidborn had declared war on what they thought was a weak, fractured species. They had fled from what they discovered instead, a race of beings who created their own strengths from their apparent weaknesses, who built unity from their diversity, who turned their most brilliant misfits into heroes, and who taught their machines not just to calculate, but to sacrifice.